Last week in Michigan politics, the town hall trend seen around the country continues as local members of Congress look to answer questions, concerns, and frustrations from constituents over news out of Washington. We have the details. Plus, is Michigan seeing less tourism from Canada amid ongoing tariff tensions? We look at what effects are and are not being seen around the state. And could possible changes to voter registration impact those with name changes? We look into what the proposal behind those concerns says. I'm Josh Alburtus, and this is your 13 on Your Side Rundown. We begin with what have seemingly become the newest political battleground in America, town halls. These events, hosted by lawmakers, have been heated on both sides of the aisle for weeks. Many who attend the meetings concerned and frustrated over what's happening in Washington. The latest town halls held by West Michigan members of Congress happened late this week as that trend seemed to carry on.
How many people came in tonight feeling angry, scared, afraid, or apprehensive? I hear you. I hear you.
It was a packed house at Grand Rapids Christian High School Thursday night. More than 1,000 people estimated to have gathered for a town hall with Democratic Congresswoman Hillary Scholten.
What is the Democratic Party going to do that's different? Because the old playbook has been burned and stomped all over.
Scholten taking questions on arenas from Social Security to education. Many were also concerned about things the administration of President Donald Trump has sought to do and what Democrats they feel are not.
I am going to tell you that you can vote, and in a democracy, that is how we make our voices heard. So, well,
such concerns have been echoed around the country as the administration has moved forward with its plans to radically reshape the federal government. Scholten trying to ease those fears.
Our democracy depends on engaged citizens and responsive representatives. I'm doing my part here tonight by showing up and making sure that I'm listening to you and I'm responding with action. And you're doing your part too by showing up and listening.
And as town halls have become the new political battleground, this wasn't the only one.
Good afternoon, everyone.
To the north, Republican Congressman John Molinar holding a virtual town hall earlier in the day. Molinar had faced pressure from constituents to engage directly, but the virtual format is one he signaled allowed for more accessibility.
This is a way to reach people throughout the 20 counties of the 2nd District. People are able to participate at home.
Molinar answering multiple questions relating to the administration, including whether he believes the president is moving the government toward an authoritarian one. He said he believes Trump to be a strong leader.
There are systemic things that make sure that we have checks and balances in this country, and no one branch of government can dominate another branch. And so each of us plays a role.
But whether the people of West Michigan will accept the responses of their representatives will continue to play out. Josh Alburtus, 13 on Your Side. And still, those weren't the only ones, as questions continued this week over massive changes being made to the federal government. Even state leaders were hearing from voters about what it all means and how it could affect you. We looked at what Michigan Attorney General Dana Nessel and State Senate Majority Leader Winnie Brinks had to say at another town hall in Grand Rapids.
We are not giving up. We are not backing down.
That's the kind of message that was heard at a Saturday town hall featuring State Attorney General Dana Nessel and Senate Majority Leader Winnie Brinks. The event focused around response to federal actions since the inauguration of President Donald Trump. But these leaders also facing frustration over what some feel is or is not being done.
It's frustrating for me to always hear what is the problem. We need to come up with a solution.
Legislatively, Brinks outlining actions like resolutions and hearings to put certain issues under the spotlight, but also acknowledging, in her view,
that's not enough. I'll fully admit it's not enough. But those are some of the things that we have available to us. So it would be irresponsible for us not to utilize those things to the best of our ability as well.
One attendee also speaking on what she feels are the potential dangers now associated with open protest.
I feel like this is also a very risky endeavor for all of us, especially when we see what happened to those University of Michigan students who are speaking out about Palestine.
The speaker seemingly referring to criminal prosecutions brought by Nestle's office against nearly a dozen protesters at U of M last year.
None of them were peacefully protesting or legally protesting. So you didn't have either of those two things. Anyone who was peacefully or legally protesting did not get charged.
Nestle saying while misinformation may be spreading surrounding the prosecutions, there's a difference between the actions of her office and what she feels may happen under the president.
Those individuals you're speaking of, they are getting every type of due process consideration you can possibly imagine. But that's my concern, is that everybody is entitled to due process under the law, and under the Trump administration, we're not going to have that anymore.
Republican Congressman Bill Huizenga, who had hosted his own telephone town halls in recent weeks, had also faced calls from some constituents to hold in-person opportunities. On Friday, Huizenga indeed meeting face-to-face with people gathered outside one of his offices. Huizenga says he engaged with protesters outside his office in Holland on Friday for over 45 minutes, addressing questions on things from the Trump administration to tariffs to the Department of Government Efficiency.
2 weeks ago, we did a series of telephone town halls that reached almost 100,000 people, 100,000 people, where they could actually get information where, and by the way, we're not screening out those who disagree with me. In fact, we're looking for those who disagree so that we can have a productive conversation. And I keep the line open, let them respond. It's all about making sure that we have various ways of approaching folks.
On a post to his official Facebook page, Huizenga also saying he appreciates people taking time to exercise their First Amendment rights. A Grand Rapids attorney is weighing in on the legal battles the Trump administration is facing as it works to move power away from the Department of Education. Congress created the Department of Education in 1979 when Jimmy Carter was president. Last week, President Trump signed an executive order arguing federal control of education has failed students, teachers, and families. He says states and local communities should control education, but that executive order is being challenged by a number of states.
The Maryland case tracks the constitutional issues that I think makes the presidential order vulnerable because I think it will take an act of Congress to discontinue the agency since they were the ones that authorized it.
That attorney you just heard from there says we could start seeing rulings on these legal challenges as early as next week. The University of Michigan has announced an immediate cancellation of programs and departments related to diversity, equity, and inclusion. This comes as the Department of Education has opened investigations into universities employing programs associated with DEI, with at least 45 universities, including both the University of Michigan and Grand Valley State University here in West Michigan, included in those investigations. U of M says 2 offices focused on health and campus-wide DEI initiatives will be closed, with funding and workers relocated to other student benefit programs. A Grand Rapids public speaker and author says DEI cuts cost her thousands of dollars in contracts. Gracie Harkema says organizations were told to either end their contracts or face funding cuts. 13 on your side's Callie Lichter has our story.
Gracie Harkema's message is about authenticity and belonging. She says a misunderstanding of her message has cost her $50,000 worth of contracts.
It's kind of like a catch-22. Like, what? You know, I'm here to speak about the power of us showing up authentically. When we're able to show up authentically, we're able to do our best work.
Harkema is a public speaker and author who says her talks at workshops and keynotes have been canceled due to the executive order on DEI. She knows the organizations that ended their contracts with her are put in a hard spot, with some organizations facing federal funding cuts if they continue with DEI initiatives.
The work of inclusion, the work of belonging, the work of authenticity that needs to be amplified now more than ever before.
She feels like the attacks on the message she is trying to spread about her life journey, being born in the Congo in a mud hut, to finding belonging in the United States, is unfairly targeted. She says there's a devastating misnomer surrounding diversity, equity, and inclusion, which to her is what this country was founded on.
How when we structure and built in equity and inclusion into our practices, it's only to make our organizations better and only to make our people flourish, that we can tap into our people and utilize them, and that they can do their best work to the best of their abilities.
Despite cuts, she knows other organizations will continue to give her a platform to spread her message.
It's been ingrained in them that they see these three letters and they think, oh, that's evil, that's bad, we're against it, but they don't even understand what it means.
And with more education, she feels the extreme negativity towards DEI will eventually go away.
While the Trump administration continues attempts at cuts across the federal government, many Social Security recipients in Grand Rapids say they're worried. This week, a crowd demonstrated outside a local Social Security office, saying they want access to benefits to be protected. 13 on Your Side's Jeremiah Brown was there.
And I turned 65 on Sunday. And I just made a decision. I woke up this morning and said, I got to do something.
In Grand Rapids Wednesday afternoon, around 24 people gathered in front of the Social Security Administration office on Knapp Street and East Beltline.
Trying to bring attention to what's going on and also supporting the people that are working in there, saying, we appreciate you.
The crowd, mostly retirees and Social Security recipients, they protested against recent moves by the Trump administration's Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, many of them feeling that access to Social Security benefits and Medicare could be at risk.
Well, I am a retiree. I worked for 50 years in all different trades of working, and I paid into my Social Security benefits all those years.
Those protesting tell us they are against the Trump administration's moves to close dozens of SSA field offices across the country, along with eliminating over-the-phone ID verification starting at the end of this month, requiring people to verify their IDs online only or in person.
Let's say you're elderly and you have no way of coming physically to an office that's still open, or if you live in a rural area. I mean, it's just ridiculous. They're trying to make it so difficult for people to get their own money back.
Those protesting also wanting to show support to federal employees, many saying they have been helped by staff at this very location.
And I just want them to know we are here to support them for their jobs, because there's other ways to clean up the government than slashing jobs, like without even knowing what you're doing. You know, just there's other ways that are a little less drastic to people's lives.
And overseas, a delegation of Michigan officials led by Governor Gretchen Whitmer visited the United Kingdom and Ireland. The trip aimed to bolster trade, grow tourism, and foster economic partnerships between Michigan and the British Isles. The delegation met with business leaders, government officials, and industry stakeholders to promote investment opportunities in Michigan. The state lists the United Kingdom as one of Michigan's top foreign investors. They say the UK and Ireland have invested over $2.6 billion in Michigan since 2019. In February, Whitmer also led a delegation to the United Arab Emirates and Bahrain to promote investment in the state's aerospace and defense industries. Whitmer and her team were expected to return from this visit on March 30th. Changes that could soon be coming to registering to vote in federal elections have had some concerned whether people who changed their name would face increased barriers. Coming up, we verify what's in the proposal that has sparked those concerns. Changes could soon be coming to voter registration for federal elections, and some question whether it could be tougher for some people to register. Also, could married people with changed names face more hurdles? We verify what one proposal says. SAVE Act aims to allow only U.S. citizens to vote in federal elections by making them prove their citizenship when they register. But some feel SAVE is unnecessary.
What this appears to be is an effort to take isolated circumstances, extrapolate them out to completely change an election system that would ultimately result in taking us backwards and having less people voting than before and making it more difficult for eligible citizens to participate in our elections.
But the way it would go about it has raised some questions. One viewer, Denise, asks us, will U.S. citizens who are women have difficulty voting or registering to vote if they have changed their last name through marriage? Whether someone will have difficulty will likely be judged by what each person may experience if the SAVE Act does become law. But we can verify what the facts of this proposal are to help you at home make up your own mind. So let's verify. The gist of this bill is that anyone registering to vote in a federal election would need to provide documentary proof of U.S. citizenship. It describes documentary proof as any of these: an ID that complies with the Real ID Act of 2005 and shows you're a U.S. citizen, a valid U.S. passport, your military ID card alongside a military record showing your place of birth in the U.S., a valid government-issued photo ID showing your place of birth in the U.S., or another kind of valid government-issued photo ID that is given alongside a document like a birth certificate or adoption decree. For those who've changed their name, some have said these kinds of things will make it more difficult, with more potential forms and steps, as well as costs to obtain updated documentation or time and resources to travel to get them. The bill does require that states have a process for people to give more documentation to work out discrepancies, but doesn't clarify if marriage licenses specifically would qualify as part of those processes. And just this week, however, President Trump did sign an executive order instituting many of the requirements of the SAVE Act within 30 days. But whether such a move taken by the executive rather than the legislative branch is legal is already being questioned and could face legal challenges. Michigan's U.S. senators are putting out a call for those qualified and interested in being nominated to the federal bench, as well as other offices in our area. Senators Alyssa Slotkin and Gary Peters this week announcing they will be accepting applications in order to nominate a United States District Court judge for the Eastern District of Michigan. They also say they are accepting applications for United States Attorney and United States Marshal in both the Eastern District as well as the Western District of Michigan. You can request an application by emailing judicialnominations@peters.senate.gov, we're told. The application deadline for all of these positions is 5 p.m. on May 1st. A regional food bank in West Michigan is facing a major setback after dozens of food deliveries we're told were delayed or canceled. Coming up, what's affecting the deliveries and how it impacts other food pantries and meal programs in our area. Tensions between the United States and Canada continue as the two countries maneuver through an increasingly rocky economic relationship spurred by tariffs. Those tensions now beginning to affect tourism, potentially, between Michigan and Canada, with crossings over the Ambassador Bridge seeing a steep decline. 7 News Detroit's Brett Cast has the story.
Well, between the Ambassador Bridge and the Detroit-Windsor Tunnel, the city of Detroit sees hundreds of Canadian visitors every single day. But a recent decline now has tourism officials concerned.
Hey, go Wings!
On any given game day, downtown Detroit gets packed with hockey fans, many of them coming from across the border.
Go Sens, go! Go Sens, go!
Especially when the visiting team is also Canadian.
That's right, go Sens, go!
Senators fan Andrew Johnston, originally from Ottawa, sported a Canada is not for sale hat, a clear statement to the current political climate.
It's just a little pushback, saying we're not okay with this kind of rhetoric, the 51st state stuff.
Many other Canadians have been pushing back against new tariffs by canceling trips to the United States, urging Canadians to keep their money in Canada.
But we have seen a decline in our Canadian customers. Just based off of the numbers that we take down.
Harry's Detroit Bar and Grill, steps from Little Caesars Arena, is a hockey pregame hotspot, already seeing a noticeable dip in Canadian support. How many of your customers here at Harry's are from Canada?
I'd say a lot, especially during these Wings games. We get a lot of travelers.
According to U.S. Customs and Border Protection data, travel across the Ambassador Bridge and Windsor Tunnel dropped 14% from January to February, and February 2025 dropped 12% compared to February 2024.
It's of a significant concern to us.
Claude Molinari with Visit Detroit is keenly aware of that drop and says roughly 10% of Detroit's tourism comes from Canada.
Canada is the largest international travelers to the United States, as well as Southeast Michigan. So if there's a significant drop off, then that's going to have an impact on the hospitality and tourism industry in Southeast Michigan for sure.
So you're not changing any of your travel plans?
No. Keeping everything the same, coming to games or whatever.
But despite the tension, we found many Canadians from border towns like Windsor and Sarnia still making trips to Detroit, with those on both sides hoping the tension stays on the ice.
I love coming to the States, I always have, and I don't think there should be any feud between the two countries.
So everybody right now is, kind of getting along, trying to smooth things out and hope everything kind of gets back to normal.
In Detroit, Brett Cast, 7 News Detroit.
Some have wondered what that could mean for our area in particular. Here in West Michigan, one of the area's top festivals is weighing in on whether the tensions are impacting their estimates for tourism. Tulip Time in Holland kicks off in May and brings about 600,000 people to the region, we're told, including many from Canada. At this point, organizers are expecting about the same this year, despite the tensions between the United States and its northern neighbor. Tulip Time Executive Director Gwen Alburtus said the festival is monitoring the situation, but doesn't expect much difference in attendance this year.
We get about 600,000 visitors a year. And so far, we've only had one email from someone saying, I'm coming from Canada, but I'm a little uncomfortable with what's happening politically. But, 1 out of 600,000, it's not a huge number. I hope that it continues, that we continue to kind of solve some of these problems between the two countries so that it doesn't have a large impact on us. And so we'll see. It's a watch and see from our perspective.
Tulip Time runs from May 2nd until May 11th. AgeWell Services in Muskegon, which serves senior citizens along the lakeshore, announced this week it was ending 2 of its services as uncertainty around federal funding continues. The organization is closing its Wellness Center and Driftwood Cafe at Tanglewood Park. The closures do not affect their programs like Meals on Wheels. The executive director says the closures allow them to continue food delivery programs. The Driftwood Discount Dining program will continue at the park 3 days a week. Wellness Center activities will move to the organization's lunch and activity centers. The closures go into effect on May 22nd. And Feeding America West Michigan is facing a huge setback, we're told. Over the next few months, they were set to receive 32 truckloads of food. Now those trucks have been either delayed or canceled. 13 on your side's Alexis Dumergine tells us why.
We actually found out yesterday that the loads are officially canceled.
Feeding America West Michigan, based in Kentwood, was set to receive 32 truckloads of food between April and July, 600,000 pounds to be exact, worth over $1 million through the USDA's Emergency Food Assistance Program. However, those shipments are now on hold due to a federal review.
That amounted to about 600,000 pounds of food, valued at a little over $1.1 million.
Ken Estelle, the food bank's president and CEO, says they're working to fill the gap left by the canceled food, saying they are committed to making sure no one will go hungry. This comes as the USDA freezes funding for the program, affecting food banks across the country.
One of my messages is we will have food for food pantries. All our mobile distributions will go on as normal, and it may not be exactly the same food we were planning to have, but we will absolutely have food available for our neighbors that need help.
However, this is not just a problem for Feeding America West Michigan. Organizations like Kids Food Basket get a lot of their food from Feeding America. Chief Operation Officer Erica Abo says it's already been a tough situation with inflation, and this freeze does not help.
Inflation has been really tough for us, and Feeding America has helped us to weather that somewhat. And so with the reductions that are happening there, it will increase our costs.
Abo says this delay puts added pressure on an already stretched system as discussions continue at the state and federal level to potentially reduce the number of people eligible for food assistance. However, they are fully committed to the mission they started.
We are not going to let it stop what we do. We are committed to providing almost 11,000 healthy meals to students in West Michigan.
Alexis Dumershine, 13 on your side.
And that's the rundown for your week in Michigan politics. Be sure to keep up with all the top political stories of the day, both on air and online at 13onyourside.com. We'll see you next week.